They have ended up on the other side with the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of their children whom they have brought into the world, simply because it is a major task. But that's what the family is meant for. The husband being the sort of stern individual among the parents, the wife or mother being the more effeminate, softer part of parenting. And the balance between the two is what is bringing about, as much as is possible, a proper functioning family. There is what one would call legitimate tension. Tension not in terms of anger, but tension in terms of balancing, a balancing act. So if all you have is the dominant masculine side, life in the home can be quite ugly because you are lacking the softer skills that balance the way family is going. And then together, it's not just the fact that you are raising children, but it is the most basic unit that also becomes the most basic economic unit. And therefore, as a couple and as a family, you engage in economic enterprise, in the cultural enterprise. So it's not just that you're bringing in money, but that you are actually doing something that is resulting in development of God's world one way or the other. And normally, the man is the primary bread maker, and the woman is the primary home maker. But again, there is a balance that is taking place between the two. That's the family. And as you make your way from the beginning of the human race, that's what you see. Human beings don't just sleep together and produce children and move on. Human beings marry. And in the context of that marriage, there is the home, sweet home, in which young lives are being nurtured. And even before the fall, that's the way in which God intended the family to be. Now, when we say dysfunctional, what we are really saying is that the family reaches a stalemate. And in that stalemate, it then fails to go forward in the context in which God meant it to go forward. As I had just been describing a few minutes ago, there is one roof, there is living together under that one roof, but in terms of home, sweet home, it's been lost. You are basically like in boarding school, under one roof, but not really living out that full enterprise. Now, the question that we are beginning with is, why is that so often the case? Why is that? It's amazing how many people who, in their courtship days, you could hardly separate them in their courtship days. If you separated them physically, they were with each other on the phone. Just talking and talking away and talking away, and the other person on the other side is even yawning now, is tired, but just talking. And now that they are married, they basically endure each other. What is it that causes such dysfunctional families? Well, before we go into the description of the dysfunctional family, I want to give the answer to that question. Because once I give the answer, you will see the way it makes a lot of sense. And the answer is simply, it's a failure to resolve issues. It's a failure to resolve issues. In other words, what causes dysfunctional families? The problems begin when one or both parties decide, I'm just going to leave this matter. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to deal with it. Let's just let sleeping dogs lie. Konokubushembwa. But sadly, unresolved issues don't go away. And that's what we have here in 2 Samuel and chapter 13. There was a problem. Rape has taken place in the home. Amnon notices that his sister, rather Absalom, notices that his sister is looking distraught. Somehow he's picked up the fact that Amnon had been with his sister. So he asks her the question, has Amnon, your brother, been with you? And of course, her answer is a nodding with tears, enough to drown everybody in the room. His answer is now, please, don't talk about it. Now hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Don't take it to heart. Just keep it. Well, what happens is that she doesn't forget it and just move on. She doesn't. We are told there that Tamar lived a desolate woman in her brother Absalom's house. Her life was damaged. Absalom was seeing her condition day after day. The second one is the king. We are told when King David heard of all these things, so he was told, either by servants or by one of his children, but somebody informed David, this is what has happened. Of course, his reaction is normal, isn't it? We are told there that he was very angry. The problem is, there's a full stop there, and that's it. That's it. He throws up a tantrum in whichever room that he was when they told him, and then he comes out, and he's not dealing with the issue. He's swept it under the carpet. He's angry, and that's it. Well, what about Absalom? How does he handle it? We are told there that Absalom spoke to Amnon neither good nor bad. In other words, he did not speak to Amnon. He didn't. He just completely kept quiet about this man. Why? Well, we are told because Absalom hated Amnon. He was also angry with Amnon, but he did not also deal with it. I want to suggest to you, brethren, that that's what leads to a dysfunctional marriage and a dysfunctional family in due season. It is that you know there's a problem, and then you bottle it in. And when you bottle it in, it's like you are sitting on a boiling kettle with no outlet for the pressure, it continues building and building and building on the inside. Later on, after this session, we're going to see the fruit of it, which is what we see in verse 23 downwards when Absalom murders his brother Amnon. But it is after 2 years. And that's how dysfunctional families can be. It's not 1 year, it's not 6 weeks, it's not a few days. It goes on, and it only gets worse. Now, part of the way in which you easily pick it up is the fact that people stop talking to each other. Husband and wife, in the same home, in the same bedroom or sitting room, they are not talking to each other. The children are usually the ones who notice if they're old enough. There is a problem here. But sometimes they too are in that condition. They have reached that point also because the issues are also with them. So they've also decided they will not be talking to their parents, and the parents have also resolved they're not going to speak to these guys anymore. They've offended them, and they're just not going to be talking. And therefore, you can begin to notice how, if you are visiting that home, assuming you are visiting, there is, the right phrase is, a deathly silence. A deathly silence that is there. It is one that you can feel. But also, you also notice the effort of avoidance. The effort of avoidance. And what do I mean by that? It is the fact that as long as the individuals in the home can manage, they will be in different rooms in the house. Different rooms in the house. So there may be father, mother, brother and sister, and the father is in his bedroom, the mother is in the kitchen, then John is in his bedroom, and Mary is also in her bedroom. But in the same home, somehow, as much as is possible, they want to keep apart. And often, assuming you were to call one of them and to say, look, I've been trying to get so-and-so on the phone. Can you tell him, No, just keep trying. Just keep trying. Because they don't want to relate. Just keep trying. You know, he will find your missed calls, and he will get back to you. And even if they were in the same room in these days of cell phones, each one is on his phone. Each one. They are all talking to the outside world rather than talking to one another. And of course, these days, with the television and the remote control, usually it's the head of the home because he's the one who manages the remote, who's spending the whole evening just going, Kancha. And if now it's boring, Kancha, changing to another channel. Kancha. The whole evening, the food is prepared, just alone, he eats. Kancha. It's time to go to sleep. I'll find you. Kancha. It's clear that fellowship has been broken. Now, this silence is actually not silence. It's referred to as a form of passive aggressiveness. Being passive, but you are actually hurting the other party. The other party is actually feeling it. They're feeling it. Because even when they now try to talk, the one-word answers say a lot. Yes. No. Yes. I said no. So you can see that there's a problem here that is already taking place. It is an anger that is bottled in, that's not being addressed, and the result is a breakdown of relationships. But it goes further. When you insist or an occasion comes up that necessitates talking. In a dysfunctional family, you can't miss the fact that the talking is not cordial. The talking is one of anger. It's an eruption that takes place there. Now, sometimes when it is top down, you don't really notice it. Because just say, this man has got an anger problem. He needs to treat his wife better. Or these parents have an anger problem. They ought to treat their children better. But the way you normally notice it is when it's the reverse. That's when you normally notice it. In other words, when the eruption is the other way around. When a wife is now fed up and she puts all respect aside and she wallops her husband with her words. And usually when you are counseling couples and they've been unresolved issues that they've not handled, and now you've been called in, and you are seeking to deal with the issue, and the man begins to speak. He will say, now imagine, this is what she was saying to me. She was saying to me that your mother is useless. Me talking to me like that, my mother. Now the problem did not begin with your mother. You were in this passive aggressiveness that was pushing your wife further until she got to breaking point. So when she produced those words, she had been sitting on a boiling kettle. It has exploded. So those words are not measured words. Those words, strictly speaking, are a knife that has been put into your chest. And sure enough, you have felt it. That's why you are speaking thus. And also, when it is children, and they've been treated to this passive aggressiveness for a while, and now they boil over. When they talk to you from the fullness of the heart, and they even bang the door in your face, and they are gone, you say, where did all that come from? It's the fact that they have been sitting with this unresolved issue. It did not go away. It's built and built up and built up, and finally it is exploding. Now sometimes, if I can quickly come back to our story here, sometimes it is the very sense of injustice that causes this, the sense of injustice. In other words, Absalom would have been saying, look, my father, he is not just father in this house, he's the king. He knows what my brother has done to my sister. He knows. But simply because it is his son, he does nothing about it. And so, in us as human beings, God has put something that is best referred to as a sense of fairness. A sense of fairness. So when you feel as if you are being treated unfairly because a matter is not being resolved by the person who's supposed to resolve it, it becomes a pressure building period inside you. Initially, you are holding it in, but at some stage, domestic authority is thrown out of the window. Domestic authority is thrown out of the window. But let me take us to the next stage, and it is this. Sadly, even then, in dysfunctional families, even that explosion is swept under the carpet. It's again, we won't deal with it. And so, the home continues, wrong things have been done, disrespectful action and words have been spoken, and the things are being overlooked. That's overlooked. And so, what happens in the home is that you are now all simply living under one roof. That's all. Under one roof. You don't care where the other members of the family are. Don't care. You won't ask. So it's your husband who's coming after midnight. Just won't talk about it. The wife, wherever she went, she comes back. The husband is just not talking about it. No. The children, they come after midnight. They're not even asking whether they're in the house or not in the evening. You're not asking. So it's as if you're all just in boarding school. That's what your home is. It's a boarding school. Because you don't want to deal with the issues that are there. You are afraid that if you try to deal with it, there will be an explosion. Therefore, let sleeping dogs lie. One of the benefits or the treasures or the testing grounds of family life is meal times. Meal times. When you take food, put it on the table, and you call everybody to come and eat. I think we all know that person who says, I'm not hungry. But they are hungry. But I'm not hungry. Because they don't want to sit on the same table with the arch enemy in the family, the home. But in a dysfunctional family, that is multiplied. In other words, the family finally gets to the point where they stop eating together. It doesn't happen anymore. They tried it once, twice. The tension was too much. And maybe there was even an explosion once or twice, and now it's just been decided, forget it. The best is just go into the kitchen, get your own food, and back to the safety of the bedroom. Each one. and come back and clean up. But certainly, eating together is an impossibility. I mean, it's obvious. Could you have imagined Absalom and Amnon on the same table? I mean, the table itself would have collapsed. It would have collapsed. But it's the loss of one of the chief benefits of family. Just getting together, cell phones in pockets or wherever else, and you're now talking. How was the day? How was yesterday? How was this? How was that? And each one is throwing in. They're free. That's a normal family. The parents are getting to know what's been transpiring in the lives of their children in that atmosphere around the table. But when there is a dysfunctional home, first of all, there is the effort not to be at table. And when you have forced everybody to be at table, there is the deathly silence. As soon as possible, they want to finish and get off from that table. And therefore, you have lost that which makes home, home. Now, friends, the bottom line is this, that if that's the context of your home, you may not see yourself as having a dysfunctional family, but actually that's what you have. That's what you have. Home was not meant to be that way. It wasn't. When you are passing each other in the house, as I call it, like ships on a sea, there's a problem. It's a problem you need to deal with. Why? Why this silence? You don't just say nothing. Why are you not talking? Nothing. No, there's something. You are not a switch that just switches off for no apparent reason. There is a reason why. Similarly, when you cannot endure one another in the same room, you can't. There's a problem. You are sitting on a problem. Deal with it. Deal with it. When tempers flare over nothing, maybe a spoon just falls on the floor, which is normal. A spoon can fall on the floor. But that spoon falling on the floor results in a person's history being brought out for the last 10 years over a spoon that fell on the floor. It obviously means that there are unresolved issues that you've not been handling. Unresolved issues that you've not been handling. And especially when it becomes clear that respect has been thrown out of the window. I mean, imagine a husband or wife who calls the other party, you dog, Mbewe. So you married a dog? I mean, obviously, for that kind of language to start coming out of the mouth, things have been kept under the carpet for too long. Now, very quickly, thankfully, the case we've talked about, which we'll come back to in the next session, which is in 2 Samuel in David's home, is not the only one that tells us about unresolved issues in homes that then result in dysfunctional families. And I want to just refer to at least 3 of them. The first is with Father Abraham. Father Abraham. Or maybe before we get to that, let me begin with his predecessor, and that is Noah. After surviving the 40 days and 40 nights flood, we are told of an occasion when Noah got so drunk that he went about naked, and his son Ham, who saw his father's nakedness, went on to tell his brothers about it, and obviously thinking that they would also come and just enjoy what he had been seeing. Thankfully, his brothers did not do the same, but whether they told the father or later on, after sobering up, he remembered what had happened, he ended up cursing his son Ham. And that never went away. Never. It remained a broken relationship in that home. A broken relationship. But then we have a similar case with respect to Abraham. You remember his wife, Sarah, was not conceiving. She was barren. And at some point, she decided, well, we can't go on like this. Let me get Hagar, my maid, to go in with my master, my husband rather, and through that I could have children. And sure enough, Abraham slept with Hagar and she conceived. And sadly, that in itself began problems because Hagar's levels of respect for Sarah plummeted. But that's not the main problem. The main problem was that Sarah herself, at the right time, conceived. So there was already this problem. Then she conceived and bore a son, and that is Isaac. And when she bore that son, the problem was her own son was now taunting. Her maid son was taunting her son. And Abraham had on his hands what probably would be an unsolvable problem. It wasn't just unresolved, it was possible you could not resolve it. The home became dysfunctional. Thankfully, Abraham walked with God. And God told Abraham, look, man, don't try and resolve this. These 2 women in the same house won't work. The only way to bring sanity, functionality to your home, send the slave woman and her son away. Otherwise, the home will remain impossible. That's a second example. And I want you to notice, once I throw in the third one, that in each of these cases, it is unresolved issues. Here's the third and last one. And it is Isaac's family. Isaac had 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, who Jacob later on became Israel. And the 2 brothers were twins. Esau was closer to the father, and Jacob was closer to the mother. It's not unusual for that to happen. It does not in itself create a dysfunctional family. However, a time came when Isaac wanted to leave his blessing to his children. And really, the blessing of the firstborn was a very important blessing in those days. Very, very important. Because it was a double portion that you received. A double portion of your father's inheritance. But more than that, your sisters who were unmarried became your responsibility. You were to look after them. And your mother, when she was widowed, would also be your responsibility. So it was a place, or rather a position of honor, especially after your father has died. Well, on the occasion when Isaac was meant to bestow his blessing upon Esau, the mother, Rachel, together with his brother, Jacob, connived. And in the process of their conniving, Isaac gave his blessing to the wrong person. And the story has it that upon Esau discovering what had happened, he was so angry that he was even shaking with anger. And Jacob ran away for dear life's sake. Ran away for dear life's sake. And long after the death of his father, that's when they were able to reconcile. Long, long after that. Jacob lived for a long time in fear of the brother. Can you imagine? Those of you who got siblings, failing to live with your own sibling. But that's exactly what happened to David and his brothers. Can I throw in one more? And this is just a by the way. And it is with Jacob as well. He had 12 sons. And Jacob loved the younger one, Joseph. And before Benjamin was the target of his affections. And the other brothers, we are told, they hated Joseph. They hated him. And a time came, as we shall see in the next session, when they sold him as a slave. They sold him and claimed to the father a wild animal had done this. So the point I'm trying to make out of this is that when you look at all these examples, what you see as the cause, it's living with unresolved issues. Living with unresolved issues. And the issue is not what the issue is. The issue is that you are not resolving that issue. It could be anything. But that thing has now become a wedge in the home. And it's building up pressure within you to the point where, as we've seen in 2 Samuel 13, you are essentially co-tenants in the house. That's all you are. Co-tenants in the house. And what I want to say to you today is that if that's the description of your home, there's hope. You're not the first ones, not the only ones, there is hope. And I'm hoping that in the third session, we will come to deal with that. But for now, let me hand back to our song leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pastor Mbewe, and thank you for your patience. So we are going to go for a break for about 30 minutes. That's to allow us to grab a drink, maybe a snack, catch up on calls if possible, also network, and just get to know ourselves. We have 2 more sessions remaining. One is what are the fruits of a dysfunctional family, as Pastor said. And then the last one will be how can your dysfunctional family be cured? I hope that after the first session has ended, we have a clearer mind of what a dysfunctional family is, and are already looking at where some of the problems might be if you are in such a situation. But also, no one is immune to these things. Any family can become dysfunctional. So we all have to take heed and be preventative rather than reactive, so to speak. So we have a book stand in the corner there where there are some books that you could buy rather. And some of them have been done by Pastor Mbewe himself. There's marriage, divorce, and remarriage. We have the Christian family and many other good books. So please pass through the book stand and grab yourself a copy. It may be on any topic or marriage-related issues. And then we also have some food that the ladies have prepared to my left here. So we are going to start with visitors first, as usual. So they will go and pick their snacks, and then Kawata Baptist Church members will follow thereafter. In no particular order. And then just for those of you who are joining us for the first time, or if you came after we had made announcements, when you go out that door at the back, to your right is where you find your conveniences. That's the ladies and the gents. Thank you so much. This is about 3:30, so if we can come back for the next session, let's say at maybe 3:50, 3:55, somewhere there, so that 4 sharp or 16 hours sharp, we go into the next session. Thanks very much.
Praise him, all you creatures great and small. Praise him, summer, winter, spring and fall. Howling wind, rushing streams, rolling hills and crashing seas. Lift your voice and worship your Creator. Praise him, gleaming moon and burning sun. Praise him, all you spinning spheres above. Shining stars, golden beams, choir made of galaxies. Lift your voice and worship your Creator. Praise him who stepped into what he made. Paid our debt and pulled us from the grave. Every heart he set free, every soul that's been redeemed. Lift your voice and worship your Creator. This my great and everlasting hope. I've been saved and heaven is my home. I can't wait for that day when I see you face to face. For I magnify my maker. Yes, I was saved to walk beside my Savior. I'm created to worship my Creator. Holy, you are holy. Earth and heaven sing forever. Holy, you are holy. All creation praise Creator. Though the nations rage, kingdoms rise and fall, there is still one King reigning over all. So I will not fear, for this truth remains, that my God is the Ancient of Days. None above him, none before him, all of time in his hands. For his throne it shall remain and ever stand. And all the power the future brings. I will watch and wait for the Savior King. Then my joy complete, standing face to face in the presence of Ancient of Days. None before him, all the time in his hands. For his throne it shall remain and ever stand. And all the power, all the glory, I will trust in his name. For my God is the Ancient of Days. For my God is the Ancient of Days. Great light dawns in Galilee. Some say madman, some say king. Wonder working rebel priest. Jesus Christ the Nazarene. He knew what it would take to free your soul from sin and grace. A perfect man would have to die, and only he could pay that price. Friday's good 'cause Sunday's coming. Don't lose hope 'cause Sunday's coming. Devil, you thought you better start running. Friday's good 'cause Sunday's coming. It's coming, coming, coming. So we let those soldiers take him in, as his friend betrayed him with a kiss. There before the mocking crowd, like a lamb to the slaughter, didn't make a sound. Then he carried that cross to Calvary, and he shed his blood to set us free. As the nails went in and the sky went dark, the redemption of the world was always home. Friday's good 'cause strength.